we think about MJ, when we think about Tom Brady, when you think of postseason career,
yeah.
Who has had the better postseason?
Okay, just for the record, for those who might not know, I am the biggest Michael Jordan fan on the planet, and I have always been. I had the privilege and honor of covering him, especially in his last year in Chicago, 1998, the last hurrah year, really his last great year, before he retired for 3 years and then had two not so pretty age 38, 39 seasons in Washington that he probably shouldn't have tried, but I gave it to him because he had earned the right to try it. And I think he had fun with it, but they didn't even make the playoffs. They went 37 and 45 in each of those 2 seasons. Despite that, the greatest athlete ever in any sport was Michael Jeffrey Jordan, the most consistently dominant player in any sport ever, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And I'm talking about overall dominance. You can make cases for Babe Ruth in baseball. You can make cases for Barry Bonds in baseball. I always say Muhammad Ali was the most electrifying and charismatic athlete I ever saw or covered, and had the strongest will of any athlete I ever watched or covered or got to know. I got to know Ali a little bit toward the end of his career. But here's the bottom line to your question. If we're just talking about pure postseason performance, I just have to say, to admit, to acknowledge that Tom Brady has eclipsed Michael Jordan just because he's been greater longer. Wow. He's had far more opportunities, in large part because of the longevity of his greatness. And for the record, we're posing this question as if Tom's finished, and I don't think he's remotely finished.
You're right.
I think he's going to play 4 more years. So we might be revisiting this topic again and again for the next 3 years anyway, and every time we revisit it, it's going to look worse and worse for Michael Jordan because he's finished. So we look at what happened. Michael's dominance, the essence, the ultimate dominance came 6 times in 8 years because he went 1991, 92, 93 championships, then he took the 2 forced years off, and then he comes back 96, 97, 98, championship. So he goes 6 for 6 in the finals, but it all happened in 8 years. And if he had been able to play the 2 middle years, it would have been 8 for 8 with 8 MVPs because that's who he was and that's what he was doing at that stage of his life. But again, it ended in 1998. So obviously the one big glitch in Brady's postseason resume is he went 9 years from 04 all the way up to the 14 season with no Super Bowls. They played in 2, but he didn't win one. So that's a long gap. But meanwhile, Tom Brady has played in 13 AFC championship games. That's just mind-boggling. And he's gone 9 and 4 because obviously they're going to their 9th Super Bowl. So he's 9 and 4 in AFC championship games to get to the biggest game in his sport. Michael played in 8 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Lost the first 2 to the bad boy Pistons, and then he won 6 in a row. But his problem was that even in those 6 that he won to get there, only 1 went to a Game 7, and I covered it because it was in 1998 against Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers, and Game 7 was at the United Center, and the score is pretty close. It was 88-83. The scores were much lower then, more defensive-oriented, but Michael scored 28 of their 88 points and just took the game over to me, but it wasn't that close. It didn't feel that close. So Michael Jordan never played a Game 7 in 6 NBA finals, right? So how he didn't have the opportunities. Tom Brady has he's won 5 Super Bowls with 5 game-winning drives. Well, how can you beat that? That's perfection to me. And remember, a 6th time, he had a game-winning drive with 2 minutes left in the first Eli Super Bowl that got canceled by what I thought was the luckiest play in Super Bowl history. Eli, great escape, flinging it downfield, sticking it in David Tyree's face mask, and then canceling out Tom Brady's game-winning drive. So he could have been 6 for 6 in game-winning drives. Well, that's impossible to beat. So you look at Michael, as I mentioned, at 38 and 39, it wasn't a pretty sight. So they missed the playoffs in his last 2 seasons in Washington. And what was Tom Brady doing at age 38? Well, he was losing. The last time we saw him lose an AFC championship game is the one at Denver. And by the way, in that game, he was so bad that he's throwing into the end zone on a 2-point conversion, trying to hit Julian Edelman, and it failed, and they lost 20-18. So that's how close that game was, and that was at age 38. And then at 39, Tom Brady is coming back from 28-3 down to shell-shock the Atlanta Falcons and win a Super Bowl by throwing for 246 yards in the fourth quarter and overtime.
Sure.
Okay, well, that's 39. So Michael's just kind of a pathetic side at that point, and Tom's onward and upward. Has Tom taken much better care of himself than Michael did? Yes. As much as I love Michael, he did love his cigars and his wine, and he let himself go a little bit in the end, especially in Washington. Because remember, he took 3 years off before he played the last 2 years at Washington. So it's not even fair to compare and contrast. So Tom Brady has 12 game-winning drives in the playoffs. It's twice as many as John Elway has 6. Oh, yeah. So Michael, in all of his postseason performances, he has 7 game-winning shots or free throws. So it's 12-7. Well, it's not fair because when you keep going Brady, and in clutchness, Tom's just had so many more opportunities, because the most staggering fact about New England in the Super Bowls is they played an 8, and the scoring margin, the point differential in all those 8 games is 4.25 points. That means every game has been close. They could have gone 0-8 in those games, or they could have gone 8-0, because everyone came down to a sort of a photo finish.
Sure.
So Tom Brady had to be clutch just to win 5 out of 8. So he's 5-3 in the finals because he had 5 game-winning drives in his Super Bowl, his finals.
Yeah, his finals.
Right? And yet you can make a case they could have lost all 8 games, and he put him in position to win yet another one. And he had in the second Eli Super Bowl. Remember, he throws a ball, by his standards, it was off target. A lot of Patriot fans think Wes Welker should have caught it. And if he had caught it, and it would have been a good catch, I think it would have been, by his standards, a great catch because it was so far downfield for a slot receiver. But if Wes Welker catches that football, we're having a whole different conversation. And then in the other loss of the 3 losses, he throws for an all-time playoff record a year ago in the Super Bowl of 505 yards. And Belichick's defense gives up 41 points to the backup quarterback for the Eagles. So Tom lost 41-33. Yes, he lost the football in a late drive. I'll give you that. But it wasn't what you would call an unforced error. It was a forced error because Brandon Graham just made a great play, a great pass rush, reached out and slapped the ball out of Tom's hand. Did Tom throw an ugly, bad idea interception? Like he threw one at Kansas City. That was just a bad idea down on the goal line. But he was able, it was early enough in the game. He obviously overcame that. That was 7-0 at that point, and he immediately put them up 14-0 because he canceled out his mistake. But last year, he didn't have enough time to cancel it out, although for me, the Hail Mary that he threw at the end of the game, Gronk should have caught that ball. 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, Gronk would have caught that ball. But now he's a broken down shell of himself. So I can show you where Brady, in every game, he's clutch.
Yep.
But in the end, the problem is he doesn't look the part, right? He acts the part.
He never has, right?
But he ran the ugliest 40-yard dash in combine history. He can be a little corny. He can be a little nerdy. He gets like an excitable kid on Christmas morning when they obviously pulled the game off at Kansas. They stole the game at Kansas City. What did he do when it was over? He leaps into his teammates' arms. He's like a little kid.
You're right.
He's excited because he's an excitable boy, Tom Brady. Well, you know what he is? He's Michael Jordan in sheep's clothing. That's what he is, because he's a cold-blooded killer in disguise, because the disguise is all the corny, goofy, lame Brady stuff, right? But in the end, down deep, he's as cold-blooded a killer as Michael Jordan is, which is why, according to NFL Network, he walked in the other day to the complex, this was last week according to NFL Network, and said, I'm the baddest MF on the planet. He just announced to nobody.
Yep.
Well, you know what? He is. And I always thought Michael was, but Tom has just had more chances to be the baddest MF on the planet. And he has shown you repeatedly on the biggest stage in his sport, He is that guy.
And the best part about it, you brought it up, Skip, he has said 0 chance this is the end for Tom. So, Shannon.
Yes.
I want to hear from
there you are.
Took a little break there to get his thoughts together.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
it's hard being away.
I'm
so,
sorry
It
that I
is.
ran over you so badly on the LeBron topic.
I knew
can
you
you
was going
say?
to try this, but you know what, Skip Bayless? I thought long and hard about this, and I wrestled with it a long time.
Did you?
I'm going to agree with you. I believe it's Tom Brady because the luxury that Michael Jordan has is that someone has to beat him 4 times over a 2-week period. Every football game in the playoff is a Game 7. So imagine a bad call. You see what happened to the Saints? 1 game and it's over. See, Michael Jordan had 4 chances. Someone has to beat him 4 times. And if you look at the longevity, Tom Brady in 18 seasons has played in 13 conference finals. Michael Jordan only played 15 years. He went to 8.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the totality of it, even if you let's just take Tom Brady in blocks. Let's take him in 6-year blocks. His first 6 years, if he doesn't play any time after that, he's still a Hall of Famer. You take the next 6 years, although they don't win a title, they get to 2. He's MVP twice. He's still he's still a Hall of Famer. You take the last 6 years of his career. Here he is 4 times in 5 years, going to the Super Bowl, has an opportunity to win. So if you take Tom Brady in 6-year increments, 6 at the beginning, 6 at the middle, 6 at the end, no matter how you slice it, he could be arguably the greatest quarterback. And then when you combine all those years, the 8 straight AFC title games, the 13 AFC title games in which he's played, his 9th Super Bowl, I get it. Michael Jordan basically once he started going to finals, with the exception of the year that he took off, and then he came back 3/4 of the way through the season in '95. He never knew what it was like to lose. But just imagine if Michael Jordan lost 1 playoff game, he was out of the playoffs.
Yep.
Because that's what Tom Brady, that's what you do in football. Tom Brady loses once, he's out. So basically, Tom Brady has played the equivalent of 39 Game 7s. Because 1 loss and you go home. 1 bad call, you go home. 1 crucial mistake, you go home. Michael Jordan's never had to face that because you say, Skip, in the finals, he's never even gotten to a Game 7.
No.
But just imagine if every playoff game he played was a Game 7 because that's what Tom Brady's up against. Look, and I went back and forth. I was like, well, yeah, but look at Michael. Michael, first 6 years, he didn't even know what it was like to get to the finals. And before Scotty got there, he was swept in the first round. So I get it. And everybody just looks at Michael Jordan's finals record. The question that I've asked those people, is it better to get swept in the first round or get knocked in the second round and not have that ding on your final record?
Yeah.
Or is it more impressive to go year after year after year?